has proposed that a international employment bureau be created for such scientists. So it would appear the West is more concerned about us than we ourselves are. Those who are familiar with the reductions in defense are keeping their mouths shut for the meantime. In the European Center on Nuclear Research, we see a model of our future Europe. There are 6,000 scientists here from 16 states. Now the employees in the center are creating the largest accelerator in Europe in this underground tunnel, which is 27 kilometers in circumference. There's participation here on the part of scientists from Russia. Russia has now become a member of the Council of Observers. Mrs. Professor Montanay, who is responsible for contacts with Russian scientists, has said that they are concerned with the military situation of the financial situation of our science, and terrorist regimes may want to hire these people. So today, this is a difficult period, particularly during the first half of this year, and the center has agreed to provide material support since we don't have currency, so that we might be able to participate on a proper level. Here in CERN, we see that we are not viewed as an opponent. Tomorrow in Moscow, there will be a meeting on the beginning of a meeting on the Middle East. Today's meeting of Mr. Kozyriev, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, talking here with the representative of Israel, who stated that he considered this was a new stage in normalizing the Middle East situation. However, the situation might be influenced by the decision with regard to the Jordanian-Palestinian delegation. According to David Levy from Israel, Israel rejected any participation of Palestinians from East Jerusalem, or also from the occupied territories. If the Arabs refuse to arrive, Palestinians don't come, we will negotiate with the Jordanians. Yesterday was a meeting between Kozyriev with Mr. Baker, and you'll learn about that in the news today. Now, the news in brief: in Geneva, there was a Commission on Human Rights meeting discussing the right to self-determination. 37 planes from former East Germany may soon be transferred to Croatia. There are pilots who have already received training from Croatia to fly these planes. Almost 3,000 priests or ministers from the evangelical church in East Germany have worked for the Stasi, the state security services. In Cape Town, we have conflicts there. Here we see in Singapore a meeting over the creation of a free trade zone. Here, the Prime Minister of Singapore, Goh Chok Tong, appealed to Mr. Yeltsin, or gave a speech addressed to him. There was poison and poisonous gas discovered in Croatia. Children found these materials and were playing with them. In Algeria, they are continuing to arrest leaders of the Islamic Salvation Front. This is an offensive which may lead to a civil war, according to the Islamic figures. Here, an Israeli patrol was in southern Lebanon. People are fleeing their houses, fearing there may be punitive operation. Salman Rushdie, who was sentenced to death by Khomeini in '89 for his satanic verses, gave an interview today to the German television network ARD. He said he should have the right to create freely. There is an award of $4 million put on his head. Kuwait received the first shipment of F-18 Hornets, which performed well during the Persian Gulf War. The order was placed before the Iraqi aggression. Thousands of persons took part in a demonstration in Londonderry, Northern Ireland. This is the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, when soldiers shot down peaceful marchers. And the situation is getting more critical. There are daily reports reports on murders and explosions based on religion and ethnic characteristics. Today, there's a blockade of border personnel who are unhappy over the integration of the European community, which might lead to an elimination of their profession. In Kenya, a plane ran into a bird, and there was a crash. This was near the Masai Mara Reserve, and 9 persons perished. The Discovery may fly an extra day since they consume less electricity and water than they expected. The astronauts are experimenting with weightlessness. In Indianapolis, we see the trial over the ex-champion of the world in boxing, Mike Tyson. He is accused of raping an 18-year-old girl. If the accusations if he's found guilty, he may go to prison for 63 years. So once more on events in the Commonwealth. We have a museum in honor of the great artist and explorer Rerich and his wife, who was a philosopher. And this museum was handed over to Moscow. There will be an international center, and the opening took place today. So when people lose their ideals, they find themselves in a spiritual vacuum. For that reason, the influence of the Rerichs is so great. This is a good influence, since the chief thought of the Rerichs was unification of people, their nearness of peoples, of cultures, of religions. The closer, the better. And that thought for us now is one of the chief and central thoughts. Look how people are interested. This is amazing. You can't get people to go to the theater or to literary evenings. It's unusual to see so many people, so many, and the mood is so good. No matter what's happening in the city, in the country, in the world, the people have come here in a good mood, in a mood of expectation. What's going to happen? How specifically do you expect the Rerich Fund to act? As the vice president of the fund, we're creating an organizational group which will developing a concept of the organization. I consider that we can't defend culture in the abstract. We have to protect specific works of art, museums, theaters. Then you will see the strength of this movement. And that is probably the chief thing. So there will be education and scholarly work taking place in the center. They will attempt to unified organizations which are prepared to defend moral and cultural goals. So there is a new publication, We, in Russian Мы. That's a new Soviet-American publication. This independent weekly will be published by Izvestia and the American corporation Hearst, which has dozens of its own other publications and television stations, publications. Here we have Igor Golembiovsky from Izvestia and Frank Benak from Hearst, who stated that they're going to have a united editorial office, which will be split between Washington and Moscow. The initial print run will be roughly 300,000 copies, which will be sold in Russia and the Commonwealth, and 50,000 will be sold in the United States, basically counting on business people and managers and governmental officials. The proposed price is $1 in America and 3 rubles in our country. The first issue was distributed immediately. Its creators hope for success, all the more so since they have these 2 most large journalistic organizations in our countries. So this is Mr. Golembiovsky, who is the chief editor of Izvestia. So there will be 20 persons in each editorial office in Moscow and Washington. We will utilize our potentials, our journalists, to the maximum. Frank Bennett here from the Hearst Corporation, who said that this will not be a simple translation into Russian or into English, but this will be a joint creative publication which will allow us to see each other's worlds.